My name is Octavia Jean Mercer, and I have spent 67 years trying not to be a burden to anyone. That is the thing they never tell you about getting older. It is not the aching knees or the reading glasses you leave in every room. It is the quiet, persistent fear that you have become inconvenient, that the space you take up, at the dinner table, in the conversation, on the road, costs more than it gives. After my husband passed, I learned to be small. Earl had been the loud one, the one who laughed too hard at his own jokes and left the television on even when he was not watching it, just because he liked the noise. When he died, the house got very quiet, and I got very small inside it. My daughter wanted me to move in with her family in Raleigh. She called every Sunday and asked. And every Sunday I told her I was fine. I was not always fine, but I was not ready to trade my kitchen, my garden, my Tuesday morning church group for a guest bedroom with a bathroom I shared with my 12-year-old granddaughter. So I stayed in Millbrook, Ohio. And when the arthritis in my hip made driving at night feel like tempting fate, I started taking the Route 14 bus, the 6:15 in the morning and the 4:47 in the afternoon, every weekday, to my part-time position at Halverson and Briggs, a small accounting firm downtown where I handled filing and correspondence 3 days a week. The partners were both in their 50s and treated me like furniture. Useful, unremarkable, easy to overlook. I did not mind. The work was quiet. The bus was quiet. My life had become a series of quiet things strung together, and I had made my peace with that. The driver on the 6:15 route was a man named Lewis. I noticed him the first week, not because of anything dramatic, because of the opposite. He said good morning to every single person who stepped onto that bus. Not a reflex, not a performance. He looked at you, made eye contact, said it like he meant it. The first time he said it to me, I almost did not know how to respond. I had gotten so used to being invisible. I started bringing him coffee. Just a travel mug from home, nothing fancy, 2 sugars, a little cream, the way Earl used to take it. I do not know why I assumed Lewis took it the same way. I just had a feeling. And I was right. He wrapped both hands around the mug at a red light one morning and said, "Mom, this is the best part of my Tuesday." I started bringing it every day. We never talked long, a minute at most, maybe 2, while passengers filed past. He told me he had a teenage son he was raising alone. I told him I had a daughter in Raleigh who worried too much. He laughed and said worrying was just love with nowhere to go. I thought about that for the rest of the day. For 8 months, that was our routine. I brought coffee. He said good morning like he meant it. I got off at the corner of 5th and Clement and walked half a block to the office, and the day began. I did not think of it as friendship, exactly. I thought of it as decency. 2 people being decent to each other in small ways. The world had enough people who couldn't manage even that much. Then came the Thursday in February that changed everything. It was bitter cold. The kind of cold that makes the air feel sharp in your nose, and the bus shelter does nothing to block it. I had my coat, my gloves, my scarf pulled up past my chin. I had the coffee mug tucked under my arm to keep it warm a little longer. Lewis opened the door, and I handed it to him. He nodded, and I found my usual seat. 3rd row, window side, facing forward. I like to watch the city wake up, the bakery on Monroe with the lights already on, the teenagers waiting for the school bus looking miserable in the cold, the pigeons who always seemed unbothered by everything. We made the usual stops. Monroe Street, Clement Avenue, the library on Garfield. Then we passed 5th and Clement. I looked up. We were moving. My stop was behind us. I pressed the stop request strip, the one that runs along the windows. Lewis kept driving. "Excuse me," I said, louder than I meant to. A few heads turned. "Driver, I missed my stop." He glanced at me in the wide mirror above the windshield. His eyes were calm. Not panicked, not apologetic. Calm in a way that made me feel, strangely, more unsettled rather than less. "I know, ma'am," he said. "I need you to stay on just a little longer. I'll explain at the next safe place to pull over." I did not know what to say to that. The man had driven me to work for 8 months. He had never done anything but be kind to me. But I was 67 years old and alone on a bus, and we had gone past my stop without stopping, and my heart was doing something unpleasant in my chest. I gripped my purse strap. 2 more blocks. He pulled into the layover zone near the old Woolworth building, the spot where buses sometimes sat between routes. He put the bus in park, stood up, and walked back toward me. The few other passengers glanced up briefly, then went back to their phones. He crouched down so his eyes were level with mine. That surprised me. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, well over 6 feet, and the gesture of making himself smaller was so deliberate it cut right through my fear. "There was a man at your stop this morning," he said quietly, "standing at the corner of 5th and Clement. I noticed him last week too. Same spot, same time. But he never gets on." I waited. "Today he had a phone out. He was photographing you. I watched him in the side mirror after you boarded. He followed the bus on foot for almost a block. The cold I felt then had nothing to do with the temperature outside. I don't know who he is," Lewis said, "and I could be wrong. Maybe he's nobody. Maybe I'm being paranoid. But I didn't feel right letting you get off there without saying something first." I asked him to describe the man. Medium height, heavy set, wore a dark green jacket, maybe 60, maybe older, had a grey beard, close cut, walked with a slight drag on the right side, like an old injury. I knew before he finished the description. His name was Clifford Baines. He was the brother of my late husband's former business partner. And 3 years ago, when Earl's small appliance repair shop went up for sale after he passed, Clifford's brother had made an offer that I had turned down. Not because it was low. It was fair enough. I turned it down because Earl had specifically said in the last weeks of his life that he did not want that family to have it. He had never told me exactly why, just said it once, clearly, and I had honoured it. I sold the shop to a young couple who turned it into a tailoring business. They still sent me a Christmas card every year. I had not heard from the Baines family since. I had assumed that chapter was closed. Apparently Clifford had not. I told Lewis everything. He listened without interrupting, which was something Earl used to do too. Just listen, fully, without planning his response while you were still talking. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Does your daughter know about any of this?" he asked. "She knows the shop was sold. She doesn't know about what Earl said. Is there anyone who does?" I thought about it. "My attorney handled the sale. He knows the details." Lewis nodded slowly. "Then that's where I'd start. Not with the police yet. Not unless you have to. With your attorney. If Clifford Baines is trying to build some kind of claim or intimidate you into something, you want your paperwork solid before anything else happens." I looked at this man, this bus driver I had been giving coffee to for 8 months, and I thought, who taught you to think like this? I asked him. He smiled, just slightly. "My mother was a paralegal for 30 years. I grew up watching her sort through other people's messes. Some of it stuck." He drove me to work that morning himself, in the layover bus, technically against procedure, and I did not argue. He waited until I was inside the building before pulling away. I watched him through the glass door of the lobby, and I thought of Earl, and how Earl always said that the people who showed up for you were rarely the people you expected. I called my attorney from the office that afternoon. His name was Howard, and he had handled Earl's estate with a quiet competence that I had never properly thanked him for. He picked up on the second ring, which surprised me, and when I explained what had been happening, he was quiet in the same way Lewis had been quiet, thinking, not dismissing. "I need you to come in," he said. "Tomorrow, if you can. I want to pull the sale documents and the original business registration. Is there something wrong with them? Probably not. But if someone is sniffing around, I'd rather know what they think they found before they find a way to make it our problem. I went in the next morning. My daughter called while I was in the waiting room, and I let it go to voicemail for once, not because I was avoiding her, but because I needed to think clearly, and hearing her worry would have made it harder. What Howard found was this: Earl's business partner, Clifford's brother, a man named Gilbert, had been listed as a silent co-signer on the original shop lease from 1987, not an owner, not a partner in any legal sense, a co-signer on a lease that had expired and been renewed 5 times under Earl's name alone. Gilbert had died 2 years after Earl, and apparently Clifford had decided, in the way that small grievances fester into delusions when left alone long enough, that this co-signature entitled the family to something. It did not. Howard was certain. He had the documents. He sent a letter that same week to Clifford's last known address, a certified letter, formal and specific, explaining that no claim existed, that any further contact or surveillance would be treated as harassment and reported to the Millbrook Police Department. We never heard from Clifford Baines again. I do not know if the letters scared him or if he simply realized he had nothing. Either way, the corner of 5th and Clement became just a corner again, a place where pigeons sat on the bus shelter roof and teenagers complained about the cold, a place where Lewis opened the door every morning and said good morning like he meant it. I brought him coffee for a long time after that. Still 2 sugars, still a little cream. Some mornings we talked, some mornings we did not. There was a comfort in the routine that I had not felt in years, the kind that comes not from safety exactly, but from knowing that someone in your daily life is actually paying attention. One Tuesday in April, he did not show up for the 6:15 route. A different driver, a younger woman, drove that morning. I asked her at the end of the ride if Lewis was all right, and she looked surprised that I knew his name. "He's fine," she said. "Family thing. He'll be back Thursday." He was back Thursday. He looked tired in a way I recognized, not from sickness but from something harder. When I handed him the coffee, he held it a moment longer than usual. "Everything okay?" I asked. "My son," he said. "We've been—" He paused, searched for the word. "Struggling. He's 17. It's been hard since his mother left." I sat in the 3rd row that morning and I thought about what I could do. Not what I should do or what was appropriate. What I actually could do. My church group had a youth counselor, a woman named Rochelle, who ran a Thursday evening group for teenagers in transition, kids dealing with family disruption, with grief, with the particular anguish of being 17 and feeling like the ground had shifted permanently. I had heard her speak at a church breakfast the previous winter and thought she was one of the wisest people I had ever met. I got her number from our group coordinator that same day. I wrote it on a card, just the name and number and 4 words underneath. She helped my church. I gave it to Lewis the next morning with his coffee. He looked at the card for a long moment, then he looked at me, and I saw something in his face that I recognized too. The particular exhaustion of a person who has been managing alone for so long that a small kindness catches them completely off guard. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. "You already did," I said. "Last February." His son started going to Rochelle's Thursday group in May. Lewis told me this in pieces over the following weeks, the way people share good news carefully, superstitiously, afraid to speak it too fully in case it becomes fragile. By July, he said his son had started talking to him again. Actually talking, not just answering. He said they had eaten dinner together 3 nights in a row, and that his son had asked him, unprompted, to teach him how to cook the red beans and rice that his own mother, Lewis's mother, used to make. I cried a little on the bus that morning. Turned toward the window so no one would see, watched the bakery on Monroe go by, the lights already on, the same as always. There is a thing that happens when you spend long enough being invisible. You start to believe that your presence does not change anything, that you move through the world like a ghost. there, technically, but not altering the shape of things. I know that is not true anymore. A cup of coffee, that is how it started. Not because I wanted something in return, not because I had calculated that Lewis would one day notice a man photographing me from a street corner. I brought it because he said good morning like he meant it, and because decency, in my experience, deserves to be met with decency. I still take the 6:15 every Tuesday and Thursday. My hip has gotten a little worse, and my daughter has started sending me articles about the benefits of moving to Raleigh, and I have started reading them instead of setting them aside, which is progress of a kind. But I am not ready yet. There is still the bakery on Monroe with the lights on, still the pigeons on the shelter roof, still a man who opens the door at 6:15 and says good morning to every single person who steps on, like every one of them matters, like every one of them is worth seeing. Some mornings, that is enough to make the whole day feel possible.